Okay, we had the new parts come through from the factory. We'll get them on the car ahead of FP1.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 46 today for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix here in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous episode at the Chinese Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. Quite a chaotic one at China with a bit of rain at the start and getting dry, and also a few altercations with some AI here, but Baku being Baku, I'm sure we'll also get some carnage and chaos here. We have done so 2 for 2 so far in the game, and so in the third season I'm sure it'll be more of that, to be honest, but let's see how it goes then. But going into this episode then, both myself and McLaren and Force India have upgraded quite equally there. You can see Force India slightly actually have upgraded more than us because they've closed the gap to the gap we had basically at the Chinese Grand Prix. You can see Ferrari, Haas and Red Bull all stay put, so really I think hopefully for our sake we'll be staying a step forward from China. Obviously at China we performed pretty damn well, myself and Alonso, pretty high up the order, so hopefully at Baku could be a really good one. And you can see there Mercedes and Sauber and Williams stagnate a little bit, and Toro Rosso trying to catch up at the back there. But you know, we got the minor drag update, so like I said 2 episodes ago when we bought the update, hopefully quite well timed for Azerbaijan, those long main straights, hopefully going to help us out with slipstream during the race, but also qualifying as well. Speaking of that, let's get into Saturday then and see how we do around one lap.
Welcome to qualifying in the Republic of Azerbaijan. The teams are making their last-minute adjustments before the lights go green, and the fight for pole position can get underway. And as we wait, poised for the start of what will hopefully be a thrilling qualifying, why don't you tell us, Anthony Davidson, about the things you can do to really get the most out of a car in a session like this?
Well, you're largely limited by the Parc Fermé regulations, of course. Back in the old days, pre-2004, you'd work on both a qualifying setup and a race setup over practice, and then swap them over after qualifying. So the race car was quite different at times to the qualifying car. Nowadays though, you have to find a compromise that works for both. There are a few things that you can still adjust during the session, such as the differential, the brake bias and the front wing angle, but that's about it. So it's more about optimizing what you do have and adapting your own style to suit the track conditions.
So going through now into Q1 and seeing how we do, and this will be really maybe the first test ready for the car in terms of how it is in a straight line. I've talked about that kind of thing of, you know, the engine seems pretty good on the, you know, performance chart. It's pretty high up there, but that might just be because of the fuel efficiency, and we might need to look into doing some engine power. I've seen a few comments saying that's also maybe a case of the engine looks better than it is because the AI team has done so many fuel updates, but not necessarily on engine power, so I might need to look into that. And then also just kind of still a work in progress of making the car as light as possible, and also trying to reduce the drag, which obviously we took a minor step towards for this episode with the minor drag reduction update. But as we come across the line then for our second flying lap, then we do get through into Q2 just about, but that's nothing new for us in terms of Q1. I always appear to be very slow compared to my Q2 and Q3 runs, just trying to wind through. Obviously, you know, as we go on through the career mode, I do less and less practice sessions because we're just trying to fly through. I try and do the practice sessions as quickly as I can, basically, so I'm not actually learning and kind of getting used to the car on the circuit. I kind of do that in Q1 almost, so like Q2 we're kind of a bit more up to speed. But to say that in Q2 this time round, I was finally trying the kind of strategy of trying to qualify on the middle tyre. So far this season we haven't actually tried that strategy. I didn't even try it at China because I thought there would be some rain at the start, which there was, but not enough to start into. But here I'm trying to qualify on the medium tyre, super soft. Doesn't work out though. You can see P12, which actually I was quite surprised about that. I was still P12 there on super soft, so I was kind of dreading that I'll be down in P15 maybe, but so far at the moment P12. But Alonso way ahead of us, and obviously going on to ultra soft tyres straight away is going to gain us heaps of time. I mean, straight away to turn 1 you can see I gain a heap of time there just by braking a little bit later and maybe having a bit more speed mid-apex due to the tyre compound I'm on. And so eventually we're down to P13 on those super softs on the top left, so we really did need this lap then to get into the top 10. At the moment Alonso is in there, so again, you know, so far Alonso has beaten us every single time in qualifying when it matters in the top 10 shootout, so and in Q2 when we knocked out, so we need to try and do better and try and match him if we can. So opening DRS then down the main straight, and then just going right to the line as the ERS deployment just about ends, and we do eventually make it into Q3. But you can see there, myself and Alonso actually very equally matched, and we only just as a pairing made it into the top 10 shootout. Both Mercedes out then in Q2, which is very surprising because obviously in real life it's a very BAKU car kind of Mercedes, but we make it in, they do not. But at the moment it appears we have a lot of work to do, and our car may not be as fast as I thought it would be. You know, with that upgrade I thought, okay, looking pretty good. China, we're a P5-ish, I guess you could say, on the grid in terms of the quali pace, maybe myself and Alonso. So I thought, okay, maybe we'd look towards maybe the second row, or at least the third row minimum. But it looks like this McLaren car is actually not too great and very efficient in a straight line, maybe, in terms of that balance between having enough downforce for the corners and having the speed on the straights, because and much like real life, because at the moment we're quite down there in Q2, and in Q3 obviously we only have one flying lap to go, so this is it. And at the moment it's not being the best of laps, so this at the moment I don't know where we're going to be. At the moment Sebastian Vettel is on provisional pole, which is surprising to say the least, because Ferrari are the third fastest car on paper on the performance chart, and Haas and Red Bull are far more up there. But across the line, and for us it's a pretty disappointing P10, but Alonso's there in P9, so I may not have the time to Alonso there. There's a few tenths between us. It obviously wasn't the best lap, but even if I did pull out a good lap that matched Alonso's, it would have only been P9. So the car itself here at this circuit, maybe it's just not going to go well. Red Bull are down as well, and Ferrari, Haas and Force India are the three teams looking the best. So maybe some fighting is going to be needed there, and maybe some clever strategy work for both Red Bull and McLaren going into the race. So let's just get into the intro then, and I guess we'll see what we can do, and hope for some chaos to help us out, maybe get up the grid order.
Good afternoon and welcome to Baku. This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. So let's find out what lies in store for us this year. It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It's 3.7 miles around a lap of Baku City Circuit then, with 7 rights and 13 lefts, giving us a total of 20 corners. The cars today will be reaching top speeds of around 215 miles per hour, maybe even a little bit more, with a slipstream and DRS assistance. We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Grosjean, Raikkonen, Esteban Ocon and Magnussen, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Alonso and the engineer, Hamilton, Bottas, Charles Leclerc and Hülkenberg, Sainz, Ericsson, Pierre Gasly and Sergei Sorokin. Stroll and Brendan Hartley rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Alright, so here we go then on the grid for what might be quite a difficult Azerbaijan Grand Prix for us today. P10, P9, the car doesn't seem to have too much pace on the straights, or even maybe in the corners to make up that deficit on the straights. So we'll just have to see how it goes, really. And like I said, maybe pray for that usual Baku mayhem, you know, a crash or a safety car, something like that, like happened in Bahrain and China, to maybe help us out. But the strategy, default to 2-stop, we'll see about that, because in previous seasons, the 1-stop has been a good option. So we'll have to see how it goes, really, and see how the tyre wear is on this McLaren around here. But here we go then to 5 red lights to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Round 4 of Season 3 is underway, and it is a pretty okay start there compared to Fernando. Alonso, Ricciardo with plenty of tyre smoke off his tyres into turn 1. We have a little look at Ricciardo, doesn't work out though, and ultimately we stick behind Alonso as well for P10. Hamilton though has a good sniff around the outside into turn 1. We're gonna fend him off in turns 2 and keep that P10 for now. But it looks like it's all steady then, with Vettel on the minimap there, still in first place off his surprising pole position, to say the least, really, for me. That Ferrari car clearly carrying over some speed perhaps from previous seasons gone by, but one car that hasn't been doing that for sure has been the Mercedes as of late. But that still won't stop Hamilton trying to overtake me. Still pretty good in a straight line then. The works Mercedes engine down the inside. Hamilton is just about alongside us there into turn 1. He might have us under braking there. I'm not too confident on the brakes on heavier fuel around here. I can't line. So Hamilton does have that on the inside. He's still going to be there, and so we're going to have to take this a bit tactically, brake earlier, switch back, and be a lot tighter on the entry and exit, and that does mean we can make a nice little switch move and get back up into P10. Hamilton then on the right hand side, just making sure he's going to be behind us as he tries to outbrake us, but we're going to squeeze him out there, and now hopefully he can be a problem for Hulkenberg then right behind him. But it is Sebastian Vettel that leads the way. Then it's Kevin Magnussen, I think that is, attacking, I think, Sergio Perez for P2 at the moment there, and so the Haas down the inside of the Force India, and Magnussen will just about get that, I think, and then behind him, behind those two rather, is Kimi Räikkönen and then Romain Grosjean. So both Haas cars looking a little bit better this time out, and they're going to want to after the demise of Magnussen obviously being wrecked out of the Chinese Grand Prix by Bottas. But eventually then, as we go through the laps, then that was Magnussen pitting on the previous lap, and now on towards lap 4, Alonso's come in as well, and we've got a whole gang of cars in, so we're up into P4 now. So the kind of first pit stop's already started to happen, and so now soon enough for us, it'll be time for us to come in at the end of this lap. Then my engineers advised me to come in on lap 5 a little bit earlier than maybe the default strategy was, and to be honest, I'm going to go with him here because the car does not feel like it can do a one stop here on ultra soft. So the one stop's very, very doable, super soft tires to soft tires, but ultra, just like China, you have to really stretch the ultra to actually go that distance, and unlike China, I don't have the clean air to work with and the space to work with to maybe go a little bit slower and easier on the tires, and the car just isn't feeling up to it. It's feeling very, very loose and with a lack of grip, should I say, on those worn ultra soft tires. So now we're on a set of supers, and we come out then behind Alonso and actually right to the back of the grid, because we've got a lot of cars up ahead then trying the one stop, maybe all those that were outside the top 10, of course, probably trying the one stop. But now we've got a smoking Force India there of Ocon, so he's going to be out of the Grand Prix actually then, so that'll be one less car ahead of us then to worry about. So we should theoretically be then up into P9 on the road if you kind of shuffle through all the pit stops then, but obviously it's not going to be that easy because we're going to have all traffic to contend with. And speaking about that, look at that, up ahead already a bit of a train and traffic there. Alonso behind Verstappen now on lap number 9. You can see we're all getting held up somewhat there by slower cars ahead. Hamilton might be one of them there as well. And now can we try maybe overtake Alonso? He goes a little bit defensive to the inside there, so could we try and move around the outside? No, because Alonso himself will go down the inside of Verstappen, and so that's a wonderful move there by Alonso, very opportunistic, and a late dive bomb there from Fernando, and it's worked out there. And as we move on to the main straight then, I can't actually kind of mimic him and keep up with these guys. I don't know what it is, but these guys are just flying away from me. Obviously I'm not on maximum ERS load there, I'm only on high because I'm trying to save up some ERS, because you can see the battery store isn't as high as I'd want it to go on overtake mode. But Verstappen flying at the moment, obviously getting some slipstream from the cars ahead, and now it's the Williams car of Sorokin battling Verstappen side by side. They go through turns 1. Can we try and get Sorokin, maybe catch him napping a little bit down the inside? We go, a big dive bomb for us, double lock up there, and then trying to overtake Sorokin on the exit. But that Williams car, maybe a dog in the corners, but you can clearly see in a straight line pretty damn okay. But you can see Sorokin being in the walls there with a lot of paint kind of stripped off there on the side pods. We now confirm the place down the inside there. Late break from us and just kind of slot in behind Verstappen. Meanwhile, you've got Ricciardo fighting one of the Ferrari cars there, just up ahead in that train, and also the Mercedes car of Hamilton side by side with the Force India. Alonso dives it down the inside though of both Hamilton and Perez there. We do similar things to Verstappen, and so it's a tandem move by myself and Alonso to make an overtake there. Alonso's still side by side with Perez. Perez will have the better line though. We're going to dive down the inside of Hamilton then and do a copycat move to the one Alonso did on Verstappen, and so I'm taking a leaf out my teammate's book here and trying to use the aggression he's showing and has shown so far this Grand Prix to get through that traffic, much needed, because we're now up into P15 only though on lap number 10. I'm praying there's a lot of cars there yet to make pit stops, and now we try and overtake Vettel, who's gone very slow, and on the outside of Fernando Alonso. It's a fantastic move there, a two-man overtake around the outside of turn 1. What a move that is. Vettel, for some reason, the race leader, remember, going very, very slowly into turn 1. I don't know if he got caught unaware by Perez making a move, and then Alonso caught him napping and was trying to make a move on him. But whilst Alonso was doing that to Vettel, I decided to overtake both of them in one foul swoop. What a lovely move there. Gotta say, it's probably one of my favourite passes I've ever done at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Not often I actually enjoy passing around here because I find it quite an awkward circuit, but that was very, very nice and satisfying to make the move work around the outside because it's such an unorthodox place to make the move. And also now moving on to lap 12, we've made the move on Perez there, you saw, whilst I was talking about that previous overtake, but it's not going to mean too much because the Force India literally flies by there with DRS. It's so powerful, and so I'm going to have to stick behind him once again on lap 13 and maybe try and rear overtake him if I'm lucky. But at the moment, we are now up into P6 there on the top left. Hulkenberg comes out behind Alonso. It looks like he's doing a one-stop, so Hulkenberg could be in a really good place. I think both Renaults are trying a one-stop this race, and so they could be in a really good position by the end of it because we haven't seen too much of them. But Hulkenberg coming out there, and he's going to the end of the Grand Prix. That's really good, as now we make a very aggressive move on Sergio Perez to squeeze him out there. And much like Alonso was very aggressive on Ericsson last time out the Chinese Grand Prix, that was a little bit controversial and maybe a little bit too aggressive from me, I'll admit, on Sergio Perez. But to be honest, I was a little bit fed up of him catching me up so often in the straights. Meanwhile, now Alonso comes in for his second pit stop on lap 14, on lap 13 I should say, and we're going to come in now on lap 14, and we'll come in for the same pit stop then onto a set of super soft tyres. Ahead of me, a Red Bull in as well. We're going to go onto another set of super softs. It looks like the Ferrari car there, and also I think my teammate has gone onto soft tyres, so the tyre wear is hitting the AI a little bit more than it is me maybe, or maybe that's just me being over optimistic about what I can do on super softs here. But I feel like the maths works out in terms of the number of laps I've gone on supers so far, and also you've got to kind of factor in lower fuel as well. But we come out just behind Lance Stroll, so unfortunately a bit of traffic there, but you can see I am still ahead of Fernando Alonso, so that's at least good. I'm ahead of my teammate so far at the moment, even though it is in a lowly P15 at the moment. And so we make our way through Lance Stroll, and like I said earlier, I've got to pray now there are still a decent amount of people who are yet to make pit stops. And actually, you know what, look at that on the minimap now, there will be a few. So as we go down the main straight onto lap 16, we're up into P11 then, so 3 places gained from pit stops. But then Hartley there ahead of us is on soft tyres, and so now in the top 10 I think there might be quite a decent number of people on softs going to the end of this Grand Prix. So I think now this genuinely is where we are at the moment in the Grand Prix, and we're going to have to fight pretty bloody hard to try and get back up into some decent points. So it looks like the car definitely is struggling this race, unfortunately. The saving grace for me though is some of these cars doing a one-stop theoretically should be outright slower than me anyway, like the Toro Rosso and Sauber, but surprisingly Ricciardo bunched up there, stuck behind Ericsson with no slipstream to overtake him, as we set a purple lap time there, really getting the hammer down on these soft, fresh, super soft tyres, trying to make up the time, and we make a lovely triple overtake up into P8. So if we continue at that rate, we'll be right at the front then in no time, but I doubt we're going to make so many overtakes like that. That was a special case of Ricciardo being held up there by Ericsson. Meanwhile though, this is for the race lead in fact. It's Magnussen overtaking Nico Hulkenberg then on those soft tyres. Remember, we talked about Hulkenberg just coming out behind Alonso previously, and obviously then after that, me and Alonso made pit stops, so I wasn't wrong about Hulkenberg being in a very good position here. He's actually fighting for the race lead with Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. Both of them, I assume, are going to the end of this Grand Prix now on soft tyres, and they're still neck and neck now as they enter the heart of Sector 1 into the kind of heart of the city here in Azerbaijan, and Magnussen on the inside, Hulkenberg on the outside there, but Hulkenberg puts up a really good fight. That Renault is pretty damn good in a straight line, it looks like there, but eventually it's going to be Magnussen ahead in P1, Hulkenberg P2, Grosjean's P3 at the moment, and P4 at the moment is actually surprisingly Valtteri Bottas, who I think is trying a one-stop and he's trying to redeem himself from what was a calamity of a Chinese Grand Prix, I think you'll agree. Meanwhile, Ricciardo tries to overtake me, but has a horrendous lock-up on the front left. So, you know, Brick Bobby, if you want to keep on doing that, then by all means be my guest, because you're not going to overtake me by making lunges and lock-ups like that every single time you're trying to make a pass on the main straight on lap 20 with 6 laps to go. We're both trying to catch up Raikkonen up ahead, who's fighting Carlos Sainz. Ricciardo comes back at me down the inside there, very close to the wall. Ricciardo shaves that and makes me also go very close to the right-hand side wall. We just about managed to navigate that section, and all the while up ahead we're closing up on Raikkonen and Carlos Sainz, who are losing time to each other, fighting here quite drastically. There goes Kimi again on the left-hand side. There's Sainz now down the order into P7 momentarily though, because I think obviously we saw with Hulkenberg, the Renault was not too bad in a straight line, so Sainz might be able to re-overtake him potentially, but there's a big lock up there from Raikkonen, and Sainz is caught unawares a little bit and kind of brake checked almost by the Iceman there. So can we now try and overtake Sainz with a bit of a tighter line on the left-hand side? DRS open, rich mix going, and also ERS, but not on overtake, only on high, because we don't have too much of the battery store left, and at the moment I can't actually pass that Renault because he's got DRS obviously off Raikkonen as well. So we're going to have to wait till the corner then in the end of Sector 2 as we enter the short Sector 3 round the outside there. It's a sweet move. A little bit of contact was made there, but Sainz tried to pinch me into the curbing on the right that we saw so many times Raikkonen lose it in qualifying in real life, and we made a really nice move, but Sainz going to come right back at us. So that's the unfortunate thing about Baku here. It's a very annoying feature of the circuit. It's such a good long straight to make a pass with slipstream. It's so easy to pass someone and then they can just easily repass you. Well, we're saying that we're going to repass on the repass of Carlos Sainz then as he tries to get it down the inside. We're on the outside. They puts up a good fight though. He's going to push us wide and actually force us almost into the wall. Can we get enough power down then with ERS as well? He's got DRS though, and here comes Ricciardo now to fight him there, and Ricciardo pulls to the right. He's made one overtake on me. Can he make a second move on Carlos Sainz? Very close to go and touching a little bit there, and Sainz just about fends off Ricciardo, and so instead of overtaking Sainz, I've been overtaken by Ricciardo. I have to try and re-overtake the Red Bull car then down the inside. Very close stuff there. Ricciardo really flirting with the wall and the spatial awareness of myself there on the inside. Thank God he eventually gave us a little bit of room, and we squeezed past there on towards lap 23 with 3 laps to go now up into P8, and oh, there's been a calamity there. Oh, Raikkonen in the wall maybe. The Sauber's off as well, and so we gain 2 free positions. What did I say? Praying for some chaos here. There we go, 2 free positions. Bob's your uncle, love it. Raikkonen v Leclerc it looks like there, and it looked like Raikkonen was maybe half in the wall. Let's see, I didn't quite get a close look. Obviously I had to concentrate on my driving and kind of going through and staying ahead of Ricciardo, but now we can have a better look on the replay camera. So Leclerc is overtaken by Raikkonen, and so Raikkonen's got the position here, but oh, he locks up. He locks up and also takes Leclerc with him. That is so annoying and upsetting for Leclerc's sake there. Raikkonen's own mistake, and he has to punish him and Leclerc, and then there's an amazing 3-wide moment there between a Force India and some other cars like the Toro Rosso there, and so that's how we gain 2 free positions then into turn 1 up into P6, Ricciardo P7 respectively, as we now move on to lap 25 then with 3 laps to go. It's not only Ricciardo closing me up, but also surprisingly the Sauber of Marcus Ericsson's down my inside there with 3 wide momentarily. Ericsson's overtaken both of us. The Sauber has just overtaken myself and Ricciardo. Absolutely amazing stuff there, and even with a lock-up Ericsson keeps it ahead, but we get the place back on Ricciardo kind of thanks to Ericsson's lock-up there, because Ericsson held up Ricciardo mid-apex, so thank you very much to him. And now but Ricciardo will have the DRS off the Sauber to help, and also the Force India comes into play as I think Perez here wants to try and make it 3 wide as Ricciardo dive bombs, lock-ups, hit the wall, and he's hit us and he's out. Oh, come on Ricciardo. And we're in the wall, and Ricciardo's now T-boned us, and he's absolutely messed up our entire Grand Prix in operation here, and now I'm stuck here in P11. There's a huge pile up there of about 5 cars behind us, including Alonso, Vettel, Raikkonen, Hamilton. We get a 5 stop and go penalty for colliding with Hartley, but that was all Daniel Ricciardo's doing there. What on earth was he thinking with a huge dive bomb? It looked like he hit the wall on the left and then bounced across into me. Look at that. Yep, hits the wall and literally his car bounces into me and he takes me with him, and then he causes a pile-up behind us of the Toro Rosso of Hartley, Alonso there. I'm pretty sure also Hamilton, Vettel and Raikkonen are right behind us as well. At this point, I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just so shocked I didn't put it into reverse gear. Eventually find the reverse gear, go around the outside of Ricciardo, but what a frustrating moment in this race. We were going pretty damn well. I would have been pretty happy with P7 there, but Ricciardo double lock-up, hits the wall, and then, well, there you go. I don't really know what else to say, really. I could have maybe given Ricciardo a tiny bit more room, but even that, he had enough operating room there on board with Perez. Look at the amount of room I give him there. I'm actually going a little bit wide on purpose mid-apex to give him some room, and obviously he hits the wall, and then, you know, he's just a passenger at that point when his car is bouncing from left to right once he's hit the wall, but still so frustrating there. Obviously Perez was a little bit of pressure as well for both of us, because he was trying to make it 3 wide maybe, and so that could have played into it, but it's been a tough Grand Prix the entire time, you know, trying to drag this car up into some good points there, because clearly the car did not have the raw pace. But then for something like that to happen, calamity, we're P13 now behind Alonso. You can see though, for everyone's sake, it's been a pretty hectic Grand Prix. Both Ferraris from what was, I think Vettel was, remember, leading the Grand Prix at one point. Raikkonen was in P4. They're now both behind me in P15 and P16 anyway, so I don't know what on earth has happened to their Grand Prix. I don't know if their strategy just didn't work out there. Alonso's coming to the pit lane now for a pit stop there, so ironically, even though I'm going to get a 5-second penalty here added onto my time, I still might finish ahead of Alonso on the road or on the timesheet there, even with that penalty. So at least that's the kind of saving grace, at least for me, is I'm going to beat my teammate in terms of the kind of rivalry there and for what the team think of me. But also at the same time, the team are going to be pretty pissed off about how this race is going to end. No points for both me or Alonso. You can see here, actually, though, a good point out here is just how bad the Mercedes car maybe is, because I'm actually keeping up with Hamilton there in the initial stage of that lap there, even with the red right front wing. But eventually, there we go. Kevin Magnussen has won the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It finally comes good for my old team then in Season 3, and we cross the line and limp across in P12. Nothing much else really to say about that.
It was a tough race at times, but they've held on to take a great victory for Haas. So, Ant, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
Well, I'd say it's just raw pace, plain and simple. I mean, we could sit here and talk about strategy all day, the overtaking, looking after the tyres, but at the end of it all, if you want to win, you need a package that's got the speed over everyone else, and that's exactly what they had today.
And now it's time to wind down and celebrate after that fantastic Grand Prix. Here they come, your top 3, out onto the podium.
So it's actually a 1-2 for the Haas F1 team there. So GG's, fair play. My old team finally comes good in Season 3 and shows that power it should have and that pace with a 1-2 for Haas. But it's a bonkers Grand Prix all the way. Both Ferraris finished behind me, despite what I had as a Grand Prix. Like, you take my race, and yet the Ferraris still finished behind me. You've got the Renaults both placing P3 and P5 there pretty damn high up. It was a good redemption race for Valtteri Bottas. But with that, look at the drivers' standings. All 5 drivers in the top 5 there in different teams. Red Bull, Force India, Ferrari, McLaren and Haas. It has been a bonkers season actually so far, and it's quite a wide open season. It may not seem like it from qualifying and here and there, you know, Red Bull being pretty consistent with 2 wins on the trot from Bahrain to China, but actually in actual fact, it's still pretty damn wide open at this stage, and it's looking pretty damn tasty. In the constructors, Red Bull obviously have that little bit of consistency, but Haas now finally starting to climb up the table into P3 ahead of Ferrari then. So Haas Ferrari ahead of the Works Ferrari team. Force India move down the order. Renault finally get off the mark properly and get ahead of Mercedes now, and Mercedes are finally in a position where I thought they kind of would have been at the very start of this season, but of course they got a little bit lucky here and there at Bahrain and whatnot, but Renault finally get off the mark, so that's pretty good to see for their sake. But for us, I guess it's a disaster, but also at the same time we're still P2 in the constructors. I still finished ahead of Alonso and both the Ferrari cars, of course. That's important for my sake of finishing ahead of the Ferrari cars, just to kind of keep on, displaying to the Scuderia and Riva Bene that I deserve to have a seat in the team. Obviously, we've got that, loan deal in place, but the more I can do to beat the Ferraris, the better for my sake going into Season 4. We get a bonus on the R&D of 400 points. That'll be really handy to maybe upgrade the car even further, because I still think we have a lot of work to do, genuinely. I mean, obviously, China was really good, but clearly here, even without the crashing, it was a pretty poor Grand Prix in terms of outright pace there. So we have work to do, but going to the end of it, I think my PR agent has something to say about that race.
What on earth was that performance? Come on, this isn't bumper cars at the fairground. Your results and conduct here matter, so pay more attention. We can't afford too many races like that.
Yeah, so my PR agent not too happy with me and get a telling off there from her, so my bad. But to be fair, I say my bad, it wasn't even my fault. I still maintain it was Ricciardo's issue. I could have given him a little bit more room, but in the end of it, it was his doing of hitting the wall and locking up like that. But anyway, we have a contract negotiation to do. Pretty bad timing for a contract negotiation to come up after a race like that. So on purpose, I was setting my sights on a very easy contract. I wasn't asking for too much, no pit stop efficiency, only one level on simultaneous development. We still go level 3 on upgrade speed and the R&D perk, and we also go for the first driver title and an easy team goal there, but I still wasn't sure about it. But at the end, it's a successful negotiation, and I think I overestimated maybe how pissed off my team would have been after that Azerbaijan Grand Prix, because you can see on the right hand side there, I've short sold myself quite a bit there, so I could have asked for maybe more on the contract negotiation, maybe more on the pit stop efficiency, but I guess, you know, hey ho, that's how the negotiations work. Sometimes you do get the negotiations bang on right, sometimes you sell yourself short, sometimes you oversell yourself, so it's good to see that even now, 3 seasons in, even I can still misjudge that, so fair enough. But like I said then, we got a bonus there on the R&D, so that's going to boost us quite a bit there. But to be fair, actually it's a little bit annoying in a way that a lot of the upgrades I have left to do on the McLaren, a lot of them are major or ultimate upgrades, so I was kind of scratching my head of what to do. But then I realised, actually, hang on, we've got a minor engine power upgrade, and I talked about, you know, maybe the team's done a lot of work on fuel efficiency, but maybe not too much on out and right power, so we're going to do a minor engine update that will come in for the very next episode of the Spanish Grand Prix, and hopefully that'll be a good booster, because that will technically take us ahead of the Works Renault team and level pegging with my old team Haas, so that should be a pretty good engine power update to give us a booster in a straight line to aid overtaking, and also just generally the general lap time in qualifying, especially because that qualifying was pretty woeful from us in today's episode. But a very interesting and chaotic one nonetheless in today's episode. So guys, if you did enjoy it, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, you can subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been over. Hope you enjoyed today, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.